welcome to the Tres Vista Talk podcast, where we engage with senior asset managers and advisors across a broad range of topics. Tres Vista is the leading outsourcing firm for the financial services industry, supporting over 1,000 clients with over 10 trillion in assets under management.
This is Abhilash Jayakumar, co-founder and managing director of Tres Vista. Today, I have with me Donald McDonough. Don is a two-time national lacrosse champion with Princeton in 1994 and 1996, and he also happens to be a managing director with JLL and head of their business development efforts. JLL is one of the oldest private equity firms in the country, founded in 1988, managing over $4 billion. Don, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Abhi.
Don, it's not every day I get to get on a call with a national champion. Maybe let's go way back and can you share some of the stories and experiences of what it was like to go through that process of a competitive tournament and coming out on top and then having to do it again?
Sure. Obviously a long time ago, but, it was the thing that I remember most about it and what still stays with me today is being a part of something that's bigger than yourself and committing yourself to that goal. And I was very fortunate to play with some very talented lacrosse players and behind a great Hall of Fame coach and Bill Tierney. And it was a big commitment at Princeton, certainly academically and athletically. The Division I lacrosse is a very competitive place, and it was almost like a job outside of the academic world that we lived in there, and so. That competition is something you have to dive in wholeheartedly and put everything you have into it and really play on the strengths of the entire team, from the All-Americans to the last one on the team. And I think we were very successful for that. Certainly a lot of talent, a lot of hardworking players and great friends. Great coaching, but we also, maximized the entire group's talent. So even the 40th guy on the team found a way to get on the field and contribute in some specialized way. So it was a really special time for me, and great memories around it, and friends I've made for life. So
yeah. Certainly at that level, everyone's at a high level of talent and all the competition has a high level of talent. And you mentioned a lot of hardworking guys. Obviously, a championship is a lot of motivation to put in the work. How did you find the second one as far as being able to find the motivation?
Sure. Well, each year is a different challenge in that environment. We have, graduating players, new freshmen coming in. So the team dynamic is a different one whenever, every year. In my senior year in 1996, I was a captain of the team, and that brought with different challenges, co-captain, I should say, and taking on a bit more of a leadership role, mentoring the younger players, finding, the best place for, for everybody to feel part of the team and feel like they were all a big part of it. So from a motivational standpoint, I mean, that competitive nature is there. There's no real additional motivation. You don't look at it like, well, you won a championship 2 years ago and therefore it's not that big a deal, not winning one again. You still have that same passion and that same edge to win. And so you put everything you have into it. I guess from year to year, your responsibilities change a little bit, and your outlook changes a little bit, and your appreciation for different things changes a little bit depending on where you stand within that team and what you're being held responsible to do. And at Princeton lacrosse, we held each other very accountable to what we needed to get done. And I guess as a senior, the second time around, it was a little more my job to make sure that we held people accountable to what they needed to get done. And so it was just a different challenge, but that drive was there for all of us every year.
Yeah, obviously, when you talk about teams, that translates a lot into a private equity ecosystem. How have you found the lessons that you've learned in a competitive sports team and as a captain have translated to your success professionally?
Sure. Well, the the private equity world is a competitive place, as Division One lacrosse or anything else. Obviously, very different sport, but the concepts are pretty similar. You need a committed group of professionals who are obviously highly talented, that are each going to bring what they do best to the table in order to hopefully drive success for the team. And for me, as as an athlete, I was someone who took on different roles, and found that certainly as I got into a higher level, that I was best suited for one role that I may not have been better suited earlier on. So there's a lot of talented folks who take on certain aspects of what it takes to be successful, that you may have done in the past, that you may evolve. And so when I started in private equity, I mean, really, while lacrosse and private equity, certainly there are a lot of egos. I think to be successful as a group and as a team, you need folks who are going to be leaders in their own world areas, but at the same time, commit themselves to the whole. And that's what we found. I found at Princeton. One year I was relied on to be a big scorer, and the next year was a lower, more of a defensive player, and so on. And so I didn't have much of an ego as far as my own individual success as I did in making sure that what I was asked to do, I did to the best of my ability, um, and helped the group success. And so within private equity, I think there's a similar concept. And as the industry has evolved, and when I got into private equity, I was it's been more of a jack of all trades, and obviously a junior person who did execution and operations and negotiation and diligence, and capital raising and business development. And as became more senior and the industry became more institutionalized, I sort of gravitated to what I had, a little more passion for, what I felt I did maybe a little better than some others, where their strengths may have lied somewhere else that I was not quite as strong at. And so business development is something that I think has grown significantly in importance. Obviously, always a very key part of the whole private equity process, but a very competitive thing that I can identify well with. So, success in private equity, it may be a bit of a misnomer, but you need leaders in all areas, whether it's business development, capital markets, diligence, execution, negotiations, operations, and so similar to Division One lacrosse, you need talents of all different areas, and the folks who are operating at the best that you can find in that particular segment.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how you've talked about the evolution of private equity. I remember when I was at a middle market private equity shop 20 years ago now, you didn't have specific heads of these functional areas of IR, of business development, of execution, of portfolio monitoring. Right? Now you have not just operating partners at a BD, but you have VPs and associates and analysts within each of those functions as well. And you've been focused on business development as a function within private equity for over 10 years now. So you might have been one of the first people that was really in a focused business development role within a middle market shop. Certainly, the bulge bracket firms were much more institutionalized earlier on, given their scale, but it wasn't very true of middle markets. So in your experience, how has that role of business development within private equity evolved?
Yeah, so I sort of came to business development organically. It was something that I was tasked to do earlier in my private equity career, along with everything else. And what was not my day job. I was an execution vice president, given the task of putting a platform together for business development, and being a bit more of the face of the firm, with investment bankers, and really trying to turn over every rock from a deal flow perspective. And I think business development early on in the middle market private equity really did look like that. And there's an element of that always, where you're trying to make sure that the firm is represented whichever corner of the world that means the most to them at any given time. And then, as I've moved as the industry has evolved, and as became more senior, and came to dedicate to myself to business development, roughly 10 years ago, it's become much more of a targeted process, a broader job, I guess, in a way, and that the responsibilities within business development are much. They range from not just deal sourcing and origination, but angle development, strategic insight. It's obviously developing relationships with investment bankers. It's buy side, negotiations and opportunities for really garnering whatever resources are necessary for the success of the firm, and not just showing up and saying, "Hey, what investment banker, what might you be selling today?" And that's as someone who was much more of it was a deal guy and an M&A professional, and early in my career, it's really been leveraging more of those skills and then making a marketing skills that, as I've become more senior, that have really made the difference for our firm. That's not to say that the relationships with the investment banking, it's critical. It's a very important part of the job, making sure that you are not just top of mind for the right opportunities, and your firm is well positioned for those opportunities. But I think proactivity, I guess, is the key word of the day, and not just knowing about those opportunities that are coming, but positioning your firm more directly around those opportunities, developing situations that may be more unique to your firm, and the like, have really taken on another level for business development. And that to go along with executive relationships and any other resources that may be beneficial.
Yeah, I think early on when a lot of PE firms hired a business development professional, they thought they could get away with not using bankers and paying banker fees and get a wholly proprietary deal. And you've really drilled on the idea of building relationships with investment bankers and owning those relationships. Have you seen that attitude change for private equity firms?
Well, I think, look, this is largely a relationship role, and you need to be able to build trust in the market. Make sure that the market knows who you are, what you stand for, as well as your firm, and where you can benefit them. Really, be more as much a partner to those bankers than just someone who's looking for deal flow. So in some cases, it's not just gathering as many opportunities as you possibly can. It's pointing out which really make the most sense for you and your firm. I would say, avoiding deal fees and the like. I think the concept of a proprietary deal is is rare these days, and when it does occur, it's not because, typically, I should say, where a private equity firm or a business development professional has a relationship or knows of a company that no one else knows about. The market is very well banked, and the lower end, the low level investment bankers and the lower middle market all have proactive business development on their side to identify companies. So the proprietary opportunities for the investments on the investment side really come from developing the right angles and relationships that make any given opportunity a strategic one for your firm, and not because it's, oh, well, no one else knows about it or no one else has seen this business. It's coming at it with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh angle, a fresh relationship, and really creating a situation where your firm is better positioned to be a buyer, better positioned for that company to have success because they've invested. And I think that's a major differentiation for certain business development professionals who are able to do that and think strategically and build the trust that those on the other side are willing to share, those unique opportunities with you.
And what are some of the angles that you and JLL have developed or working on that position you guys?
Sure. Well, so JLL, as you mentioned, has been around for quite some time. We're in our 33rd year and investing out of our eighth fund. Uh, we invest across healthcare, business services, and industrial markets. And our subsector thesis work in any of those broader sectors has iterated throughout the markets over time. I think the JLL is unique in we sort of revel in level of complexity in transaction making. We look for be it value or special situation value or growth in those sectors, opportunities to make a difference with the platform. And it goes back to our founder, Paul Levy, my partners who really have an expertise in doing deals that maybe take a little more elbow grease.
You guys work for a living.
Well, we do, and so what you'll see with JLL is a lot more buildups, partnerships, take privates. We're not. I wouldn't want to say we're splitting the atom here, but we're really backing the right management teams within sectors that we feel are particularly attractive, or that we can make a real difference in, and put them in a position to build substantial assets. And that can be transactional, it can be operational, it can be through capital markets. And so JLL has a specialized model where we have really leaders in each functional area who can benefit our investments, benefit us on the new business side, and so on. So sector, the markets and what is happening this year is a great example. The variability in potential opportunities this year, and JLL is fortunate. We've closed on 2 new platforms since the pandemic began, and soon to be, we think, a third. But the work that we've done and the markets that we've done have ranged from growth in a very early part of the year to distressed opportunities, where JLL has a long history from really and continues to be, while there has not been a wave of special situations that maybe some expected and we expected earlier this year. I do think there'll be opportunities there, and back to more growth opportunities. So it shows our ability to swing from market to market, and now the dynamics of any given deal will remain a little more complicated because that's our nature. But I don't know how many firms can swing from a growth market in mid-February to a distressed market in mid-March, and feel like they can execute through any of those markets. So it's a situation of staying close to my partners around what they're seeing in each of their segments, the work that we're doing from a thesis level, whether it's in healthcare, in revenue cycle technology and analytics, to certain aerospace and defense dynamics on the industrial side, or lab services in healthcare, to niche consultancies and IT managed services on the business services side. At any given time, legal services, all areas that we've had a lot of success in, and continue to push for opportunities amongst a lot of others. So, fortunate as a business development professional that I can, there's always something that I can try to drive within the broader market that'll be executable for JLL.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea of creating platforms, and that's an increasingly common strategy to, create multiple expansion as you build platforms. But finding and identifying and acquiring $100 million platform, it's a very different ecosystem than the $10 million add-ons. As a business development professional, how do you tackle that challenge?
It's a good question. The other challenge for JLL, while it's certainly is an advantage to be able to execute in a lot of different environments and size levels, is it doesn't make my job any easier. And so, obviously efficiency is a big thing. Fortunate not only to have been at this for a while and have been able to have come from the bulge bracket, operated in the lower middle market, and have a good deal of relationships that I can lean on as we change tacts, and it may even be within the same investment cycle, within the same industry. It's really about the strategy. So the key for me is to find ways to maintain and build new relationships in those markets as efficient as I can. And so the way I'm able to do that is certainly technology plays in, and working with our CRM and other resources, working with folks like Tres Vista to help us identify the right target as we go through our diligence. I lean on my partners to on the diligence side. And so it's really trying to get to the heart of what any given strategy is going to be, and dive into it and try to leverage as many resources as you can along the way. But it isn't easy. I'll help co-lead and organize certain marketing initiatives and conferences with other sponsors in the lower middle market, to industry events in the bulge bracket. It really is a wide variety.
Yeah.
So every
Yeah,
strategy.
we definitely see a lot of clients leaning on us for the business development support, even if they're well staffed internally, because often trying to get your own associate to Google search companies to call on is a lot less exciting for them than building LBO models.
Well, I do think it's a skill set that is much more valuable than I think those folks understand earlier on in their career. But more than that, the successful business development professional quickly turns that associate from a support in business development to an execution professional, and immediately pulls them out of business development. So it's really important to to leverage your resources both internally and externally, and even more and more externally, and then prioritize as much as you can. And we have that open lines of communication internally are critical to avoid wasted effort, and because there's always something to be done.
Given everything that's gone on this year, how have you seen kind of the business development landscape change, and what do you see going into 2021? How is sourcing the business development role going to continue to evolve?
Well, I think the role itself will continue to. I think more and more firms are looking to bring on senior and business development professionals. I think the competitive nature of our market, it's only getting more competitive, only getting more institutionalized, and so that where the advantage for those in business development was distinctly in seeing the deal that not many people saw 10 years ago. Today it's being deeper and better prepared, and much more proactive in where it means most to you. So the trends that I've seen more is firms getting out ahead on businesses that they see maybe coming to market in the years to come, identifying markets that they truly want to prioritize earlier, and so it's building that advantage deal flow and that strategic intelligence around certain assets, around certain executives, around certain markets, that is going to become more and more important in order for your firm to be successful. So I think that trend should continue. I would say those firms. I mean, we saw it this year. It's certainly I would expect the markets. I think 2021 should be a fairly robust M&A market, but I don't know that it'll be particularly necessarily smooth. So and you'll see a wide variety of opportunities, whether it's a backlog of private equity exits, to corporates looking for divestitures, to that special situation that may have been delayed through government efforts or lender leniency in 2020. creativity, that flexibility in deal execution, I think will continue to be a big deal.
Yeah, and certainly JLL being a flexible, as far as their strategy of allocating capital across strategies as distress and growth, as you said earlier, I think should position you guys to be successful no matter what 2021 brings in. But like you said, it's just going to create a lot more work for you.
Yeah. Well, there's never a shortage.
Wonderful. Well, Don, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Abhi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to connecting in person when we can.
I look forward to it.
And with that, we come to the end of this episode of the Trust Vista Talk podcast. Thank you to our listeners, and we would love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you access podcasts. Please follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter to stay updated on additional content. To know more about how we support our clients on due diligence, business development, portfolio management, fund administration, data analytics, and other areas, feel free to visit our website and reach out to us at www.resista.com. Any information, opinions, and recommendations presented by our speakers are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of their firms or Trust Vista and should not be constituted as investment advice.